Hey guys, I'm so excited you can join me for the second lesson on understanding why Jesus was called the healer. All right, so last time we talked about Jesus healing 10 men, but how many were saved? One, okay? And that is what we're going to continue on today. Today we're going to understand another miracle that Jesus did of why he was called the healer. All right, so there was a big question I want you to think about, okay? Why did God create people? So I want you to think about that question as we're thinking about our story today. And we're going to be in Mark 5. And it's called Jesus Healed a Woman and a Girl. So he healed two people in this lesson. So think about, why did God create people when we read this lesson? So here we go. Jesus stood on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and a lot of people were gathering around him. Jairus was one of the leaders in the synagogue, fell at Jesus' feet and begged him for his help. He cried out to God right there, fell down at his feet. "My daughter is about to die," he said. "Please come touch her so she will be healed and live." So right there, he knew who Jesus was, that Jesus could heal. Because remember, Jesus is like a famous person. People are hearing about the healings and the miracles he is doing. So Jerry, someone who understood the law because he worked in the synagogue, came to Jesus. So Jesus went with Jairus, and many people followed him, crowding around him. So basically, there was no room to breathe. Jesus was walking within a crowd, basically. Okay? In the crowd was a woman who was bleeding for 12 years. She had seen many doctors and had spent all her money trying to get better. So she had something that was going on wrong in her body for 12 years, and nothing was really helping. Doctors, anything they were saying, no, it wouldn't stop. All right. So the woman said to herself, "If I touch even Jesus's clothes, I will be healed." So she had faith that if I touch Jesus, I can be healed. So she came behind Jesus in the crowd and touched his clothes. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she knew she was healed. At that moment, Jesus felt the power had gone out of him. Jesus felt her touching him. That's cool. He turned around and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But Jesus' disciples pointed out that many people were crowded around him. But Jesus kept looking around. The woman, knowing she was healed, came forward and fell down before Jesus. She told them what happened. Again, another person came down and fell down and worshiped God right there. Jesus said, "Daughter, your faith has saved you." Her faith of touching Jesus saved her. "Go in peace, you are healed." While Jesus was speaking, some men came from Jairus' house and told Jairus, "Your daughter is dead." Well, that's not good news. Do you not bother Jesus anymore?" Jesus, though, heard the men and said, and he told Jairus, says, "Do not be afraid, just believe." So right there, he knew that Jairus, his household, and him were losing faith. They realized there's nothing else we can do, but Jesus told them to believe. So let's see what happens. Jesus and only 3 of his disciples went with him. Okay? People there were crying and wailing loudly. "Why are you crying?" Jesus said. "The child is not dead. She is sleeping." The people laughed because they did not believe Jesus. And he told them all to leave. So people were laughing at him and didn't believe. He just told them to get out of the house. All right. Jesus took Jairus and his wife, so he just took the parents basically, into the room where the child was. He took the girl by the hand and said, "Little girl, get up." Immediately the girl got up and began walking around. Jairus and his wife were amazed. Jesus told them to give the girl some food and do not tell anyone what had happened. Oh, wow. This is awesome. Okay. So the biggest point of this, let's talk about the woman whose bleeding stopped. Okay. What was so important that Jesus pointed out? Her faith. Touching his clothes showed her faith of being healed. How awesome is that? She was so certain that Jesus was the Messiah. She knew that Jesus was someone that God sent to help and save the people. It wasn't the act of touching his robe that healed her. It was the moment the healing happened. Jesus said it was her faith. That's it. I keep saying that, but that's what it was. Her faith. So sometimes I stop and think about how Jairus must have felt. Because you have to remember the beginning of the story. Jairus sought out Jesus to come to his house to heal his daughter. So they're all walking to Jairus' house, and this happens on the way to Jairus' house. So how do you think Jairus felt? Okay. Jairus did believe that Jesus could heal his daughter. He wanted him to come right away. But you have to remember, okay, you just healed this other woman, but we're on my way to my house. Why are you doing this? My reaction would be like, did you forget about my daughter? That's what I would be thinking. Do we really have time for this question about your clothing? Like, why are you asking these people who touched my clothing? Come on, Jesus, we need to go to my house. It's kind of like a selfish thinking that Jairus could have had. And we really don't know anything of what he could have, but that's something I always wondered. Like, how did Jairus feel? There probably was some jealousy or just like confusion, but the thing is, it's not said. My other thought is Jesus showed Jairus that he could heal, because in just a minute, we find out that Jairus' daughter died. And now that belief that Jesus could heal was gone. So maybe Jesus had to show that he could heal a woman to help Jairus believe that he can do the same thing to his daughter, even when she was pronounced dead. Because that's what happened. When Jairus was told his daughter died, they didn't want Jesus to come anymore. But Jesus knew, he said, hey, just believe and let's go to your house. All right? Even though they weren't there on time, Jesus healed Jairus' daughter by saying, get up. He healed a person who was dead and brought him back to life. This is one of the few instances that we see a very cool miracle that Jesus raised somebody from the dead. And this time it was a little girl. And Jesus told them, just believe. Some people didn't. He kicked them out. But he brought the parents in, and they saw the miracle of their daughter coming back to life. How cool is that? But the thing is, I always wonder, is why did Jesus not want to let them, why did Jesus say then, do not tell anyone what had happened? I don't know the answer to that question, but I wondered, why did Jesus say that? Interesting enough to see. We don't know the answer to that question, and that's okay. But that's something I always just thought about. So just think about that. Jesus is a healer, and he really demonstrated to people saying, put your faith in me, and I will save you. I will heal you. And that's what he did right there. How cool is that? So let's just think about it. All right, there were two people here that were sick. Okay, so I have a question. What can we do if we know someone who is sick or is hurting? What can we do to help them understand to put their faith in Jesus? Because when we're sick, we forget that sometimes if we just pray to God, or if we just seek out God or counsel from someone who is godly during this time of sick, because God can heal sickness. He can do miraculous things. There is nothing that God cannot heal. So we could probably pray for them. We could probably feed them. So what would you do? What would you think? Think about it. Our question was, why did God create people? So when we are thinking about someone who is sick or hurting, how can we show them how to worship God? How they can love God? And how can they glorify God? Even in this time of difficulty, what can they do? But the thing is, how can we show our faith in Jesus? Is another question I think about. How can we do that? Do we have faith in Jesus by our good works? No. We have Jesus if we put our faith in him. Now, when other people can't do this for you, there's nothing that you can do. You have to decide to put your faith in Jesus. So how can we show our faith in him? In times of worshiping God, loving God, and glorifying him, what can we do? And then again, my next question is, how can we glorify God if someone we love isn't healed when we ask God to heal them? Do you think we're always going to get the answers from God that we pray for? This is something I had to get used to. Okay, healing, asking God to heal. Sometimes God's healing is for them to be healed miraculously and stay on earth. I know this is going to sound morbid, but sometimes, this is the hardest one to say, God heals by letting them go to heaven to join God. It's taken me a while to really think about that. So that's the thing. Jesus shows us if we put our faith in God, He created us so we could worship Him. And that's why the two people were healed in the story, because they had faith in God. And now they love God even more, and they can glorify Him. So that's what I want you guys to think about. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and tune in next week for lesson 3 on why Jesus was the healer.